Hashtag everyone's Battlefield. Hey EA, just because we criticize your game doesn't mean we're haters. So, I'm super late into making this video covering the release of Battlefield 5, but as you know the saying goes, better late than never. However, being on time and always on time is still much preferable. So, it looks like the reveal of Battlefield 5 is finally here, and EA and DICE are going back to World War II in what is the most authentic and technologically advanced portrayal of World War II in a video game yet. And all this was revealed in a livestream hosted by Trevor Noah, comedian and host of the very politically neutral, like all the other late night talk shows that are milking the current presidency, The Daily Show. Now, I'm not a hater of Trevor Noah, even though I disagree with him on a lot of his political stances. I do genuinely find some of his stand-up hilarious, and I do laugh at most of his jokes. Most.
Battlefield V, could be V, why not V? Yeah, my name is actually pronounced Trev5 or Noah. One time, I even repaired a plane mid-air. That might be a lie, but I'm sticking with it. Who think that the war never ended? Is that who you are right now? I'm known as Madame Battlefield. You can pilot a giant grand piano like a tank. Please tell me that I can customize my look to be properly badass in the battlefield. What if I have a lot of money? Well, that means I finally lose my nickname, No Maps Noah. So I'm not gonna lie, you guys have definitely raised my analog stick. The car, the thing, the man, the boo. You saw the thing, the man, the huh?
Stop!
Really? This is him playing? Staring at a painting of a white horse? Couldn't they at least show him engaged in some action in the game? Now, I want to give Trevor Noah the benefit of the doubt and believe that maybe he's played a lot of the Battlefield games and is a fan of the series, but still, most people in the Battlefield community probably didn't know who Trevor Noah is and were probably scratching their heads wondering who this guy is. There were lots of other people who were better candidates to be the host of the Battlefield 5 reveal, such as Jack Frags, Level Cap, Neebs from Neebs Gaming, Matimio, Westy, and X Factor Gaming. Okay, I understand EA needs to appeal to the younger demographics because Trevor Noah is popular with the kids, but still, they're ignoring the rest of the community with this corporate BS.
Hey, look at how cool and reliable we are by getting famous people to present our products, hey?
If you guys didn't know, Need for Speed Payback,
Except for Terry Crews, that guy is awesome. Okay, I get it. Just because they make content about Battlefield doesn't mean they're natural presenters and would struggle to host and present on stage. Even plenty of them don't even show their faces in their videos often, so it might feel a little jarring having them show up on stage in person and present for 30 minutes straight. But at least you could have gotten Neebs and Engineer from Battlefield Friends. I mean, they would have definitely kicked ass on stage. Also, Neebs and Johnny Aspro, if you're watching this, I miss Battlefield Friends, so please come back for Battlefield 5, please.
Fuck your fat face!
Okay, so yeah, the reveal has been over a month ago since making this video, so there's no point talking about it anymore. I just hope DICE hears the community and improves their next reveal conference if this is the route they're gonna take for the reveal of future Battlefield games. So now, here's my first reactions to the reveal. When I woke up early to catch the reveal live since I live halfway around the world from LA and saw Trevor Noah presenting on stage trying to be funny with the V thing.
Battlefield V, could be V, why not V? Yeah, my name is actually pronounced Trev5 or Noah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I knew where this reveal was gonna go. Then came the panel where Trevor sat with the producers of BF5 and gave a talk show-like interview with them. Now, I didn't really like this style of presentation as it did feel much slower pace than just directly telling us what the game is about, what new mechanics are being added into the game, and what new content is also being added into Battlefield 5. With Trevor Noah interjecting after every sentence said by the producers, it just really bogs down the pacing of the reveal. I'm sorry EA, at least Activision's livestream reveal of Black Ops 4 was better. I'm not gonna jump into the Call of Duty vs Battlefield bandwagon. I play both, but I do like Battlefield more. Now let's just ignore the chit-chatting part and take a look at some of the screenshots that were shown during the live stream. leading up to the reveal trailer. Ew. Oh my god. Now I have no problems with women in video games, and in fact, some of the most compelling video game characters ever are female. But DICE is not being subtle about it. They're putting it on the front cover of BF5, which when I first saw, reminded me of some fan-made wallpaper back in 2011 for Battlefield 3, where a girl was edited onto some BF3 artwork. I didn't think DICE would do something similar just 7 years later. This is not the first time a woman has been on an official Battlefield poster, I think, with the first time being the female sniper from the Name of the Tsar DLC, but I guess because the female soldier in the BF5 poster looked a lot more effeminate than the one that was in the BF1 poster, the one in the BF5 poster just feels a little bit off and weird. What my problem is, and what many members of the Battlefield community have a problem with, is how much better DICE could have showcased women in the game, especially with the Russian faction and the French resistance fighters. But my immersion! Okay, so yeah, maybe it's not right to want to see some authenticity and historical accuracy in video games. After all, you are coming back every 10 seconds after each death, not going down after one shot most of the time, and also doing things like leaping out of jets and sniping the enemy pilot chasing you. But of course, you can never truly mimic the gameplay of every war or battle your game is trying to replicate.
What the fuck was that?
Even the experiences of milsims like Arma and Squad have some discrepancies to real life combat that anything more real, you have to volunteer as a foreign fighter in Syria with the Kurds. But here comes the argument of thematic authenticity, something that games are able to accomplish. Things such as the uniforms, voices, languages, environments, settings, timelines, weapons, and themes and tones are things the developers are able to do to help players suspend their disbelief and actually feel absorbed into the game setting. That's why thematic authenticity is important. Immersion is also an important aspect in creating a great gaming experience. Having soldiers running around on the front lines in jackets and tank tops that might have been worn casually while off duty, but definitely not during combat, can break our suspension of disbelief that this is a Second World War game that we're playing in. If you look back at some of the previous Battlefield games, such as Battlefield 3, though the gameplay itself may not have been entirely realistic, the theme of the game tries to emulate the real military with uniforms, weapons, dialogues, and sound. Now, I'm not saying that every game must be realistic and look like the real thing. What the real problem is that DICE and EA are claiming this to be an authentic portrayal of the deadliest conflict in human history, but then introducing flamboyant outfits and cosmetics. So they're not really being honest now, are they? Now I know some fellow community members on r/Battlefield, which became a metastasizing cancer for the few weeks after the disaster's reveal, have posted pictures of steampunk looking prosthetic arms existing in real life during the war's era, and the unusual face paint was used by the 101st Airborne, but still, it is very unlikely the prosthetic arm was used in combat, as I highly doubt you could just as easily carry and pull the trigger of a rifle with it. And the usage of the face paint was quite limited to the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne, who used the face paint as more of a symbolic gesture, inspired by the Native American heritage of one of their own members. If DICE said from the get-go that they were taking artistic liberties in the portrayal of World War II with the steampunk-looking prosthetic arm, face paint, and jackets, there wouldn't have been any backlash now, would there? Another argument about authenticity also comes from how one would perceive a setting to look when we think of World War II. Lots of us grew up with a very good idea of how World War II looked like. Shows and movies such as Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Saving Private Ryan, Generation War, Dunkirk, and lots of History Channel shows that had a weird craze during the mid-2000s about World War II and conspiracy theories about Hitler, when they were actually making shows about history and not this.
Now, I'm not saying that we today cannot do it. I'm not saying that. But if we're struggling with our modern technology, is it really logical to suggest that our ancestors did this?
Here comes my second biggest issue, which comes mostly from the trailer, as this won't be such a big issue once the game is out. But with the serious and goofy tone at the same time they were going for with the trailer, it just doesn't work very well. Sometimes you just have to go all out or none at all. First impressions are always paramount. For me as a Battlefield fan, I might get this game anyways because I do love this franchise despite its flaws. But for other people who has never heard of this franchise or have never played any of the games and is considering getting the next upcoming installment of the Battlefield series, this trailer and the negative reaction by the internet at large may have very well dissuaded potential newcomers, which might impact the overall player base at the release of this game. I've always been a huge fan of the Battlefield trailers since I was introduced to this series since 3. And the format of the Battlefield trailers has always been, for a while now, lots of actions and explosions taking place to showcase its epicness and spectacle, and I get what DICE was going for this trailer. But sadly, trying to have so many things playing out in one sequential take instead of cutting through different scenes and moments just like previous trailers did, just ends up as a confusing mess. Well, it looks like DICE learned the lesson from the E3 trailer and probably fired the guy that directed the first trailer. Maybe one of the other factors to the confusing mess of the trailer was due to the guy who originally directed the Battlefield 1 trailers leaving DICE. As a Battlefield fan, I don't believe BF5 will be a bad game. There seems to be a lot of gameplay improvements being added into the game, things such as no more visible recoil, more solid gunplay, bullet penetration, advanced movements, rework suppression, animated revives, and no premium pass! You know, this seems like a route DICE is taking as they did with Battlefield 4. If you ask me, Battlefield 4 was a similar game to Battlefield 3. It was a modern setting and it almost had all of the same gameplay elements. However, Battlefield 4 had improvements over BF3, such as spawning, the removal of the blue tint Battlefield 3 had, and I'm looking at you, Operation Metro, and also the addition of a shit ton more customizations for guns, uniforms, and vehicles. However, one thing they fucked up for Battlefield 4 was its disastrous launch, with terrible hit registration, server lag, unstable servers, crashes.
What am I looking at?
Are you fucking serious? You see this shit here? Oh, this shit here?
And terrible rubber bending. Oh my god.
That was close. He was already behind the wall! What is that? That is bullshit! Be patient. We were behind the wall! Be patient!
They fixed it all about 2 years later after post-launch, so it's all good in the end. Looking at the gameplay at E3 so far... Fuck. Looking at the gameplay at E3 so far, in my opinion, it does look similar to Battlefield 1 but with extra gameplay mechanics, such as fortifications, enhanced physics-based destruction with no more of that predetermined animation for buildings to come down. So I do believe that Battlefield 5 will be for Battlefield 1 like what BF4 was for BF3, a step up from its previous installment. The biggest news for me to come from the Battlefield 5 reveal was indeed the removal of Premium Pass and the paywall for post-launch content for the game. This was my biggest caveat with the Battlefield series, and pretty much every multiplayer shooter out there that had season passes for additional maps and guns that were to be added into the game post-launch. I know the development of these maps do take some additional resources and time from the developers, but really? Another $60, which is the price of a full game for just 16 more maps? And I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. But here's my biggest worry about the removal of Premium Pass. DICE has said that the single-player war stories won't be available for Battlefield 5 at launch, but instead be available down the line after the game's release. And of course, Battlefield has always been a multiplayer-focused game, so it's no big deal that we're not getting single-player at launch. At least war stories will still be coming, unlike Black Ops 4, which is not even getting a single-player campaign at all. But here's what I'm concerned about. Since EA is no longer charging for DLC, that means no direct revenue is being made for the production of post-launch content. Does that mean that there might be a lackluster of content at launch, and that despite DLCs being free, will the release schedule of BF5's DLC be sluggish like Battlefield 1 all over again, but even worse? Many have complained about the lack of content Battlefield 1 came with at launch, and the player base soon took a deep dive months after launch. The extremely slow DLC release schedule exacerbated the problem of Battlefield 1's dwindling player base, and I'm worried that this might repeat all over again for Battlefield 5. Seeing how the player base for Battlefield 1 dropped, if Battlefield 5 does release with even lesser content than it would have with Premium, And if there's gonna be lesser DLCs despite the DLCs being free, would the lack of content be worth the removal of Premium Pass? And will we see the player base for this game drop as bad as Battlefield 1 did? These are major concerns I currently have with the status of Battlefield 5, and hopefully DICE addresses them the following months leading up to the game's release. Maybe that's why we're seeing DICE doing this with the flamboyant cosmetics in the game. This was a ploy to sell cosmetic products to earn some extra cash for the game post-launch. And if DICE does keep their promise from making Battlefield 5 pay to win and only permit microtransactions for cosmetics and cosmetics only, then I'm fine with it. So I guess ultimately, all these skins are what will allow DLCs to be free. And if that's also the price, then I'm okay with it. But I would still much prefer if DICE didn't throw in all these items that just didn't fit in well for the majority of the war. We might hate greedy game publishers out there conducting unethical business practices such as loot boxes, pay-to-win microtransactions, and the rush to jump on whatever is popular for the current year. But after all, EA is still a business, and without them, there wouldn't be a platform for their studios to have their projects funded and published. So do correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe game publishers are a necessary evil, an evil that just needs to be kept in check, and earn as much money as possible to keep funding the development of projects for high-budgeted, well-produced video games possible. Again, I'm not trying to defend them, but really, EA is the worst company in America. There are other corporations and companies out there that are much worse and evil, like Big Pharma, food, oil, telecommunications, airlines, and banks doing actual harm to people and society. But no, it's EA, a game company. This is why I do sometimes despise this dogmatic hive mind hate culture on the internet, where everyone's gonna hate or like something just because everyone else does, and if you don't, you're just too stupid to get or understand anyone else. I admit I'm also guilty of participating in such behavior too sometimes. And I'm not saying the internet is always wrong to hate on something, as usually it comes from the fault of the party they're hating. All I'm saying is that sometimes you have to know and understand why you hate something and be analytical and objective about it, instead of mindlessly following what everyone else is doing in this current mob mentality culture. I'm so sorry for the sidetrack, but anyway, let's just get back to it. If you don't want an authentic World War II gaming experience, why don't you play Postscriptum or Day of Infamy? Well, that's true. I did play Day of Infamy, and I do plan on getting Postscriptum once it's out. But the thing about these games is that no other studio makes games like DICE does. DICE has always been high-end when it comes to the production and development of the games, and they are able to make some of the highest fidelity, technologically advanced shooters out there in the market, with great graphics, animation, music, and sound design. So, when it was announced that the next Battlefield game was gonna do World War II, what I pictured in my mind was scenes of Allied soldiers storming the beaches of Normandy, or Japanese troops banzai charging American machine gun emplacements on the islands of the Pacific. All done in the breathtaking render of the Frostbite engine. The thought of a true authentic World War II experience done in the Frostbite engine excited my mind, and having one done by DICE, that would have been a dream. But sadly, DICE and EA wanted Battlefield 5 to have mass appeal and have all these immersion-breaking cosmetics in the game. The weapons and vehicles do seem time appropriate, but so far from what I've seen, not much has been shown about the game so far that screams World War II. This brings us back to the point of thematic authenticity again. Aesthetics and scenes that enforce a strong sense of what setting the game is set in. The jackets and robot arms just make it hard to associate Battlefield 5 with World War II. Since the reveal of the Battlefield 5 trailer, there seems to be a very huge split amongst the Battlefield community. I believe this might very well be the most divisive reveal ever in Battlefield history. Now, I just want to say that I've been extremely disappointed with DICE when it came to how they responded to the community. They've expressed legitimate concerns with how the franchise was changing. Now, of course, after all, this is a video game and not a history documentary. To those who are saying that they're trying to rewrite history, there'll be no way DICE could be rewriting history with a fictional piece of media. But here's what DICE is doing that's really rustling my jimmies. It's very obvious that DICE's motive to add women to this game is politically driven. I mean, come on guys, it's Sweden, the very state teaching their preschool kids about gender fluidity before they've even hit puberty. And also, the very state allowing returning ISIS fighters back in with open arms. I mean, come on Sweden, you guys used to be fucking Vikings. What happened?
Because you see, Sweden is what Tumblr would look like if it was a country.
Except for Sabaton, that band is fucking awesome. And to top it off, the reveal was hosted by the current host of one of the biggest political-leaning late-night talk shows in America. So yeah, it is very obvious that there is a political agenda against DICE for this current year of Battlefield. Also, don't believe me? Let's take a look at some of the replies of the CEO of DICE and EA, Patrick Söderlund. These are people that are uneducated, don't understand that women in World War II is a plausible scenario. And listen, Battlefield 5 is a game. Today, game is gender diverse, like had never been before. Wow, good job, Patrick. Just call your fan base uneducated and sexist. And also, okay, I'll just drop the fucking dumb European accent. It's not even Swedish, it's just fucking. And we felt like in today's world, I have a 13-year-old daughter. And when the trailer came out and she saw the flag, she asked me, Dad, why is this happening? And she plays Fortnite and says, I can be a girl in Fortnite. Why are people so upset about this? She looked at me and I couldn't understand it. And I'm just like, okay, as a parent, how the hell am I gonna respond to this? And I said, you know what? You're right. This is not okay. And also, here's a statement by the game manager at DICE, Oscar Gabrielson. First, let me be clear about one thing. Player choice and female playable characters are here to stay. Wow, I mean, why did she have to bring her daughter into this? She's 13, and Battlefield games always had a much more serious and visceral depiction of war and combat, even for the Bad Company series. Comparing Battlefield to Fortnite is a terrible analogy because these two games are extremely different. And also, the Battlefield games are rated M18. Your daughter shouldn't be playing such games yet. Even though I did start playing Battlefield when I was 13 and that was what got me hooked into the entire series. This is why I'm making this super long video, where the script has already been a nightmare to write, and recording and editing this is only gonna be a lot worse. Boy, I do not look forward to it. Look, Patrick Söderlund, I get that you are a caring father and want what's best for your daughter, but you shouldn't be making decisions that could affect the entire community's enjoyment and experience of your game, just to appease your daughter. There have been plenty of multiplayer games in the past that didn't allow complete customization of a character, and they turned out fine. Hell, plenty of the older COD games that were hailed as some of the best shooters ever, such as Modern Warfare, Black Ops, Modern Warfare 2, World at War, didn't let you play as a woman, or at least plaster women all over the game because they understood that most of the people fighting in wars were men, and having women running around the battlefield can ruin the feeling that you're playing a game set in a real war. When you use women in games as a marketing point for your products, you're doing it wrong. Including women or any race or minority group in your product and only having them as merely a selling point in your game is tokenism, which of itself is a form of bigotry as you're using someone's ethnicity or gender as a means to gain extra profit. Also, please don't use your children as a tool to drive a political agenda. Now I know this is about video games and not politics, but because DICE is getting political about this, then I'm gonna get political about it too. You see this being done all the time by both sides of the political spectrum. Somebody please think of children, but my child, if you dare think about criticizing what political stance I'm expressing, then you don't care about the children. Screw actual analysis and objectivity for a solution to a political issue. Just look at my child.
Toddlers are pure, uncorrupted by fake news or homosexuality. They don't worry if it's politically correct to shoot a mentally deranged gunman. They'll just do it.
Now, of course, everyone wants to be right about their stance and opinions and everything because of pride and ego. That's perfectly normal to have, but just not too much. This children card thing just removes the opportunity to have a level-headed discussion when it comes to anything, because now nothing said by them can be criticized or questioned, or else you'll get branded as a children-hating, racist, or sexist bigot. And I hate this tribalism mentality, and it sucks. Okay, since I'm gonna be making more videos and content in the future, I wanna be myself and express opinions and thoughts that I truly feel. I'm gonna be transparent from the get-go, and I'm just gonna state what side of the political aisle I personally identify on. I personally identify as a right-leaning centrist with opinions on both the right and the left. Okay, so now we've gotten that out the way, let's talk about some other things Sutherland has said. And we don't take any flack. We stand up for the cause because I think people who don't understand it, well, you have two choices. Either accept it or don't buy the game. I'm fine with either, or it's just not okay. EA, listen. Are you sure about that? There you have it, folks. Another version for this year of EA's. To be fair, you actually have to have a very high IQ to understand providing players with a sense of pride and accomplishment. Good job, EA. Good job. 2017, the intent is to provide players with a pride of sense and accomplishment. 2018, accept it or don't buy it. So yeah, this is the kind of shitty SJW behavior DICE and EA seems to be inhabiting now, and I'm very disappointed with them. But at the same time, I kinda saw this coming. Now I won't pull off the "but come on guys, it's the current years guys" card, but I will say this. Come on guys, we're reaching the end of the 2010s, and in this current political climate, the whole equation just screams for EA and DICE to falter to the SJWs. Okay, let's get rid of the politics for now and talk about what DICE has decided to do for Battlefield 5. After hearing the suggestions from you, the community, after all, DICE does listen to their fans and have implemented features in the past through community feedback which improves their games and make being part of the community a lot more enjoyable.
You'll get something I know a lot of you have been asking for.
It's Royale.
What? No! What are you doing? This is not what the community asked for, DICE. No! In fact, this was what many of us was not wanting for. This is just you trying to jump on the bandwagon of a popular trend that will just die out in a few years. This is just you wanting to cash in on the Battle Royale genre, because all the other companies are making big bucks over what is now an oversaturated and formulaic genre filled with kids and loud microphone muffling Chinese people. But if you don't like it, don't play it. Fine, but here's an issue with DICE adding Battle Royale. Whether or not we play it, the developmental resources used for the traditional multiplayer game modes would have been taken away to develop the Battle Royale mode. And since DICE has confirmed that they are gonna do it now, I just hope the mode is good and doesn't turn out to be an expendable, throwaway disaster, else all that resources used to develop this mode by the studio was all for nothing. So that is my worry about the Battle Royale mode. Okay, looks like everyone has been talking about a very brilliant way to fix this whole cosmetics debacle. Just have a client-side option for players to be able to disable all of the non-default cosmetics in-game if they don't want to see it, while the rest can keep the robot arms or whatnot in the game and everybody wins. Surely this looks like a fairly simple solution that won't be hard to implement, right DICE? In my interview today with Daniel Berlin, DICE staff, he confirmed at the moment that there are no plans to implement a customization kill switch, turning off all visual customizations in #Battlefield 5. Why am I kidding? This is the EA we're talking about after all. They win. They'll always win.
It's not about winning. It's about fun.
What's that?
F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me.
So, in conclusion, I've been a huge fan of Battlefield for a while now. Even though I've been getting some fatigue with this series, I still want DICE to succeed and make great games. As a Battlefield fan, I will probably be getting this game anyways, as I believe that it would be probably a good game, even with the bullshit EA and DICE has put it up with. And also, I'm an aspiring game developer who just graduated from game design school with a diploma in game design, but I won't be seriously pursuing working as a game dev soon, because I gotta serve in my country's military for 2 years in a few months' time. But after those 2 years, I do want to be pursuing a career in game development. And when I became a huge Battlefield fan at 13, one of my dreams since I was young was to become a developer at DICE, to work on the Battlefield games. A series I became a huge fan of and sparked my entire childhood and teenage obsession with firearms, first-person shooters, war films, and just the military and warfare in general. And I'm gonna be in the army soon anyway, so I will get a fair share of plenty of that soon. Even with its faults, DICE has always been producing high-quality games production-wise, always pursuing as one of the best in visuals, animations, sound, and design. As a AAA studio, they want people who have experience that have been doing games for a while now to meet the higher standards in game production. And I do hope to meet their game developing standards someday, achieving my childhood goal of working on a future Battlefield title. Maybe even Bad Company 3 by then. But with this recent news of Sweden becoming an entire social justice state, and if DICE and EA continues down this line, making it worse and worse, I don't know if I ever want to work at DICE ever anymore. I don't even know if I'll get lynched just for expressing slightly conservative views over there, once I'm in Sweden or at DICE.
And the one that is completely fucked.
And I also don't know if this video is going to completely ruin my chance of ever getting hired there after spending 30 minutes criticizing about them. But you know, I want what's best for DICE. And I'm just expressing what I see fit as the best for them. I admit, I might probably be wrong about some things, and of course, plenty of people are gonna disagree with me, but that's fine. We're human after all. And the world wouldn't be as interesting if everyone unanimously agreed on everything. But I do want to have a conversation with you guys, and I will be active in the comments section, so don't be shy to tell me what you think and correct me on some of the issues. And I do want to be corrected. Now, I can't control what you say because this is the internet after all, but at least be civil, that's all I ask. So if you watch all the way through this video and have endured with my speech impediment and fake accent, I thank you so much, as every view counts as a lot. So now, as I end this video, I just want to say RIP XXXTentacion.